Morning, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Smith that's going to present to you today the chemical equilibrium graphs. I'm sorry my voice is a little bit going up and down because I'm ill, but we will present the class today. It's the chemical equilibrium graphs. Those of you that were tuned in last Saturday, we did chemical equilibrium the start, and we did Le Chatelier's principle, and we did Kc values. Now today I'm going to use that again when we do the questions, but now I'm first going to concentrate on the graphs. I know you don't like graphs, but it is actually less reading work each time when you look at the graphs. So please be nice to the graphs. It is said to us that there will be a lot of graphs in the future papers. So just make sure you know how to do the graphs. Okay, so let's start with some background information. First, if you look at concentration, if the concentration of a reactant increases. Okay, now please remember that word reactant. If you look at reactant, let me just use there. If I have reactant, that word there, you're not allowed to just write reactant. You must name it, because otherwise you tell them all the matrics are naughty. But there are just two guys that's really naughty. But now you tell me all of them are naughty. So please make sure the concentration of, and now you must write a name. Let's say HCl. So please make sure you write something there, like HCl. So you can't just say reactant in general. The concentration of the reactant increases, more of that reactant reacts, and so the concentration of the reactants on the other side of the equation increases. Okay, so that means if you get to the left-hand side, you put something in on the left-hand side, the shift in the equilibrium point will be to the right, and then the right-hand side will also increases. Okay, now usually you get that one correct. That's not the problem. The other one is if I remove a reactant. And again, the word reactant there, you must put something in there. You can't just write reactant. If I take out a reactant on the left-hand side, that means I'm lowering the concentration. Then I have to shift the equilibrium to the side where I put something back again. So please make sure there that if I look at the questions, if I put something in on the left-hand side, the equilibrium point is going to shift to the right. If I take something out on the left-hand side, then the equilibrium must shift to the left-hand side to put that reactant back again. And please, the reactants are only gases, aqua. You can't change the concentration of a solid. You can't change the concentration of a liquid. So I'm just going to write here, this must be aqua, or it must be a gas. The same here, it can only be an aqua, a solution, or a gas. Okay, so that's important there. So if you take out, then the concentration, the equilibrium wants to put it back. So then it's going to move to the left because you took out to the at the left. Or if you take out at the right, then the shift will be to the right because you have to put the things back that you've taken out. Okay, this is not good science language that I use now, but that is plain English so that you can understand the concept. We will get to the science language a little bit later on. Okay, concentration. Just make sure the rate of the forward and reverse reactions will not be equal for a short while because you disturbed the equilibrium. So initially, they're going to be equal, but then you're going to disturb them for a short while, they're not going to be equal, and then they restore the values and they will be equal again. Kc is unaffected by adding or removing reactants. Now, important, proving that the temperature does not change. So Kc is temperature dependent. So that means only Kc can change temperature. Sorry, only temperature can change Kc. So just make sure if the temperature stays constant, then it means Kc stays constant. So that means the change that you made to the products and the change that you made to the reagents were the same and they cancel each other out. So Kc is only temperature dependent. So the only thing that can change Kc is temperature. So concentration can't change it. Okay, now if I look at my graph, you will see there's my graph. And now it is very important, boys and girls, when you get to a graph, please circle your axis. There's time and there's the rate, because they're not standard. It's not always going to be time and rate. It can be time and concentration, time and mole. Sorry. And the important thing is, please look at the rate. Okay, now boys and girls, you will see, if we talk about the rate, there are only three things that influence the rate as well as the equilibrium. The rate can be influenced by 5 things. The equilibrium only by 3. And we must look at what is at both of them. And it's temperature, concentration, and to be more specific, pressure, because we usually talk about pressure of gases, not concentration of gases. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, boys and girls, so the important thing here is, if we have a look there, the rate, so there can be a change in concentration, there can be a change in temperature, or there can be a change in pressure. Okay, so that means if this graph, literally, I'm going to explain to you in plain English. If this graph goes up, that means the rate increased. So there can be an increase in concentration. So this is the change, that part there is the change that you do. And that change is on reaction rate. This part, I just want to change my color to green. So this part, we have this bended part. That will be your shift in the equilibrium. That is your shift in the equilibrium. And then, if I look at these parts, the flat parts on your graph, that is your new equilibrium. And this was also your initial equilibrium. Okay, so the flat parts, the horizontal parts on the graph, that will be your equilibrium parts. So that, in this case, it literally means that if the line goes up, then the reaction rate increased. If the line goes down, then the reaction rate decreased. And now you must look at your graph. How does it influence the different reactions? Okay. In this case, oh, somewhere it disappeared now. There was my forward reaction was the solid line, and my reverse reaction was the dotted line. So that's information that they're going to give you. So in this case, I can see there was a favor for the forward reaction, but now you see the other line doesn't go up as well. There's only the solid line went up, but the dotted line were only bended there. So that means there, what is important, that the solid line only went up, and then the dotted line only make a bend. So that means that's a change in concentration. If they both go up, we will look at that, then it's pressure or temperature. So there was a change, so I increased the concentration. What happened to the equilibrium? The equilibrium decreased there, and it favored then the reverse reaction. Okay, so at this part you will see there's the X on the graph. The X is when the reactant was added, and the Y when equilibrium was restored again. So the flat parts on the graph, that is your equilibrium parts. Okay, if we look at pressure, changes in pressure only affect the equilibrium if the reactants or products are in the gas phase. So please remember that is important. It must be gases. Okay, so pressure can only change gases. Okay, so only gases can be changed. Otherwise, you can't change the pressure of a solid, you can't change the pressure of an aqua, you can only change the pressure of a gas. So just make sure there it's only for gases. Okay, change in pressure can be brought about by changing the volume of the container. Adding or removing one of the reacting gases changes the partial pressure of that gas and disturbs the equilibrium. Boys and girls, so if we look here at the second part, a change in pressure can be brought about by changing the volume of the container. If you remember from last year, we did Boyle's law, and then the pressure is inversely proportional to the volume of the gas. So that means if they tell you, I decrease the volume, that means I increase the pressure. So let's say, for instance, it was half the volume, then it means it is double the pressure. So if you change the volume, you change the pressure. Now, sometimes the question tells you the volume is halved. Okay, then your disturbance can't be the volume is halved, because that's not one of the three words I taught you last week. So you can only say temperature, pressure, or concentration. So then you must say the pressure was increased. Or sometimes they tell you the volume is halved and therefore the pressure is increased. So sometimes they tell you in that many words. Sometimes you have to interpret that as well, especially in multiple choice. So just make sure if you say there's a change in volume, that actually means there's a change in pressure. Okay, so this last part means it is going to change gases when you remove something or add something, but again, it's not going to influence Kc. Okay, now adding or removing a non-reacting gas has no effect on equilibrium. So maybe in that case, your non-reacting gas is therefore a catalyst. So please just make sure, don't just see there's a gas added and now you change pressure and you change everything. Please just make sure if it's a non-reacting gas, it is maybe a catalyst. Okay, boys and girls, so again, Kc is not disturbed by adding a gas, because the reactions will cancel out again that you make. Okay, there's a reaction. N2O4 gas goes to NO2 gas. Okay, I have a graph. Okay, boys and girls, again on this side, N2O4, you must know it is colorless. Oh, colorless. And this one is brown. They sometimes just say reddish brown, or they just say brown. So in this case, literally, there will be a color change in my system. So just make sure you know those two colors. NO2 is brown, N2O4 is colorless. In this case, this one is named nitrogen dioxide, the one on the right-hand side, because there's two oxygens bonded to the nitrogen. On the left-hand side, there's a 2 next to the nitrogen, so that is di-nitrogen, and the 4 in science is tetra, so that means it's di-nitrogen tetroxide. It's actually tetraoxide, but you don't put A and a O next to each other. That's an English rule. So that means you're going to say it's di-nitrogen tetroxide. Okay, there's my two gases. Now I can change the rate of my reaction, and just important there, again, you will see there was a change. I added something there. So there's my change, and there's my equilibrium part again. So that was the change in the equilibrium. So just as the previous graph, you will see more or less the same. It is again a rate against time graph. So just make sure you look at your graph. Okay, so X was when the pressure was increased and Y when the equilibrium was restored. Please, boys and girls, just remember when we get to concentration, you can change one gas at a time. So you can add some nitrogen into the system, or in this case, you can add some N2O4 or you can add some NO2 into the system. Then there's going to be a concentration change of one of them. But if I change the pressure, I change the pressure of the system. Temperature and pressure are system-based. So then I change the pressure of the system, or I change the pressure not only of one gas on its own. And I can change the temperature of the system as well. So just make sure pressure and temperature are system changes, but concentration is just a single change I have. Okay, now temperature. Very, very important. Increasing the temperature of an equilibrium system increase the rate of both. You see, I already put it there. It increased both the forward and the reverse reaction as more particles have sufficient kinetic energy to make effective collisions. Okay, actually effective collisions per unit of time. Let's just add it. Effective collisions per unit of time. Okay, so very important, both. So it's like I give my children tuck shop money. I favored both of them because I gave both of them tuck shop money. But I give the one 50 rand, I give the one 20 rand. So that one means the one was favored more than the other one. But you favored both of them, the one more than the other one. So like I said previously, temperature is a change of the system. You can't just change the temperature of just one of the gases or one of the aquas in your system. You change the whole system, the temperature. So just make sure both forward and reverse reactions. So when you get to the explanations, you will see we're going to add that as well. Okay, so now you can either favor, there's an increase in temperature, you favor the endothermic reaction then more than the exothermic reaction. So increase in temperature favors endothermic, so you favor both exo and endothermic, but the endo was favored more than the exothermic. The other way around, if I decrease the temperature, then I favor my exothermic reaction, and in this case I will favor then exothermic more than endothermic. But I favor both of them, just the one more than the other one. Okay, now you will see my graph. Okay, again, if I look at the graph, I circle my axis and I say it is a rate against time. Okay, so the examples that I use, all of them is rate against time, because when I do the questions, I have different graphs for you there as well. Okay, now the important thing here, if you look at this graph, you will now see that both lines, do you see? Both lines go up. So if I see that one, there's my one line, it goes up, and my dotted line goes up, but more than the solid line. So in all my graphs that I used, the solid one was the forward reaction and the dotted line was the reverse reaction. So due to the fact that both lines go upwards, that means both reactions was favored, but in this case, my reverse reaction was favored more because the dotted line goes up longer. So my reverse reaction was favored more. Okay, and my forward reaction is favored less. Okay, but they were both favored, but the reverse one was favored more. So if you look at the graph, you will see the dotted line goes up longer and the solid line goes also up, but not that much. And then when we look at the graph again, there was now your change in equilibrium. As your change in equilibrium. Okay, so because I increased the temperature, then because my reverse reaction was favored more, then it means the reverse reaction is then endothermic and the forward reaction is exothermic, or depending on the graph that was given. So just make sure both are favored, the one just more than the other one. Okay, so again, my forward reaction was exothermic, my reverse reaction was endothermic. Okay, I knew that now beforehand, but it's not always going to be like that. It depends on your information that is given. But the important thing here, both are favored the one just more than the other one. Okay, yes, also N2O4, the mixture, and you will see there is a cooling effect and a warming effect. If I look at my pictures again, so I knew you see the one is darker than the other one. So that means my one on the left-hand side is colorless. I'm writing in blue because otherwise I can't write in colorless, then you will see nothing. And let's make the other one red. It is a reddish brown. That is the darker one, my mixture. So there's a lot of gas inside the container. And now if I'm warming it, it will get more brown. If I'm cooling it down, it will get colorless. Okay, so that is what is meant there in the middle. So the warming makes it brown and the colorless makes it, is the cooling down effect. So that means if I'm warming it, I make the shift to the right. If I'm cooling it down, I'm making the shift to the left. And warming is the other way of writing the temperature increase. This one, the temperature decrease. Remember, you can't just say, we've warmed the solution. I don't want that. I want the exact words. And the words is either temperature or pressure or concentration. So you must say there's an increase in pressure, in temperature, or a decrease in temperature in this case. So when I'm warming it, I'm favoring the forward reaction. Now you must know, according to Le Chatelier, if I've increased the temperature, then I favor the endothermic reaction. So an increase in the temperature causes more NO2 to be formed. The forward reaction must then be endothermic. So if I write here for the reaction, my delta H will then be bigger than 0. So delta H will be bigger than 0. Okay, there I've printed it also for you. So that's important. So delta H is given for the forward reaction. So if I increase the temperature, I favor the forward reaction. And then according to Le Chatelier, he says that the forward reaction, an increase in temperature favors the endothermic, and therefore increase in temperature is favored, endothermic is favored, therefore the forward reaction must be endothermic. Okay, if I add a catalyst affects the rate of both the forward and the reverse reactions equally, and so there's no effect on the position of the equilibrium or the value of Kc. So that's very important. Catalyst can only give you the products faster, and faster is the rate. So catalyst only affects the rate of both the forward and reverse reactions, but it can't shift the position of the equilibrium. So that's very important. So you can get the products faster, but you can't get more. So boys and girls, remember that reaction rate is about getting the products faster, but not necessarily more. Equilibrium, it takes you a longer time, but you're going to get more products. So that is very important. So it's like now, you're not just working to get through the June exam or just to get through the record exam in September. You're now working on getting the maximum marks in your final exam. So that is equilibrium rate. If you just want to pass the June exam, that is reaction rate. But equilibrium shift is you're already working on getting a good matric at the end of the year. So that means you must now put in and practice a lot. Before I start with all the questions, I will talk about something about the June exam as well. Okay, so if you look at the observations and explanations, if I look at Le Chatelier's principle, if there's a disturbance in the system, and look quickly, I just written it in another way. If a system in chemical equilibrium is subjected to a change of temperature, pressure, or concentration, the process occur within the system which tend to counteract the change that you've imposed on the system. So just make sure, so if you put something in on the left, the concentration is going to shift to the right. If you put something extra in on the right, it's going to shift to the left. If you want to increase the pressure, the system wants to decrease the pressure. If you increase the temperature, the system wants to do the opposite and decrease the temperature. So that was your summary last week in the table. So now we're going to look at some questions specifically on how to treat the graphs, what must I do. So I'm still going to use some of last week's work as well and do the graphs along with that. Okay, so there's question number 1, and we're going to look at question number 1. Okay, boys and girls, so let's look at question number 1 just here. Before I even start looking at the question, like I said last week, look at your reaction. Now, if I look at this reaction, boys and girls, there was something different now. Do you see there? Delta H is minus 113. So that means it's a different way of telling you that delta H will be smaller than 0. So there was a negative there, so it's smaller than 0. So that means your forward reaction is exothermic, your reverse reaction is endothermic. Okay, so I'm just sorting out my things before the question starts confusing me. I must sort out my things. Okay, the next thing that I have a look at is the gases. So there is a gas, there's a gas, so that means 4 plus 1, there's 5 moles of gas on the left-hand side, and there's 2 and 2, so there will be 4 moles of gas on the right-hand side. So before I even start with the question, that I do, and then I start reading the question, and I'm usually then it's where the confusion starts. Okay, if I look at my graph, and because there's a graph as well here, I'm circling, there's an amount of mole, and it's time. Okay, the time in minutes. So please make sure the time is not always going to be given in seconds. It can be minutes or seconds or hours or whatever. So just make sure it's time in minutes. Okay, so let's look what is going to happen here. The reaction between hydrogen chloride, okay, just a technical thing. HCl gas is hydrogen chloride. If it is HCl aqua, then it is hydrochloric acid. So just make sure, because hydrochloric acid is HCl dissolved in water. That is why it became aqua. So just make sure about that. So HCl gas is a gas in its natural state. Okay, an oxygen reacts in a closed container according to the following balance equation. Okay, is this reaction exo-endothermic? Give a reason for your answer. Okay, just make sure sometimes they say explain in terms of energy. So just read your question carefully, what they tell you. So just don't jump into the question and you haven't read carefully. Okay, so let's look at number 1.1. So 1.1, exo-endothermic, it is exothermic. Give a reason for your answer. Delta H is smaller than 0. Or you can say delta H is negative. Okay, that is different ways to tell the same thing. Or you can even say minus 113 kilojoule of energy was released. Okay, it's the same thing to tell me everything, because they didn't say it must be in terms of energy. If they say it must be in terms of energy, then only the last answer. So you can't just always say delta H is smaller than 0. Sometimes they block you and say you can't answer it like that. Okay, 1.2. Now we look at the graph. The graph below not drawn to scale. Okay, boys and girls, the only graph that is drawn to scale is the one that is on a graph paper. So you will see my fourth example is on a graph paper that is drawn to scale. No science graph is drawn to scale. No picture is drawn to scale unless it's on graph paper. It shows the amount of reactants present in the container change with time at a specific temperature. The volume of the container is 5 cubic decimeters. Now 1.2, they tell you to calculate Kc constant for this reaction at this temperature. Okay, you know, like last week, I already made my tables, and this will be 4HCl. And please, boys and girls, don't change the order of the reaction. Don't be funny and make it difficult for the markers. Just stick to the basics, please. So just keep to what was given. Okay, there's my reaction given like that, 4 and 1 and 2 and 2. Okay, now they ask me, calculate Kc for this reaction at this temperature. Okay, at this stage, I don't know. So I'm going to write my Kc expression so long. So it's H2O squared, because that's the balancing number, Cl2 squared divided by HCl to the power of 4 and O2. Now everything was gases, so everything will appear in my reaction. Okay, now I must go back to the graph to get the values. Now if I look here, you will see the graph start at the top and go down to the bottom. So that means this will be my reagents, because I had a lot of reagents at the beginning and they became less as the reaction continued. I have reagents and they become less as they continued. If they draw the products, then it would have started from 0 and become more, but they just concentrated on the reagents. So now that means I started here at 1, so that is for HCl, that was 1. So I can just write 1 or 1,0, that's 1. If I look at the O2, you will see there it starts at 0,3, so I write 0,3. Initially I had 0 of that and 0 of that, because they told me it's a closed container, and this is 5 cubic decimeters. Okay, so now if I look at my graph, that means now where the graph is horizontal, the flat part of the graph, for O2, that is my equilibrium part. So if I look at that graph there, that flat part is 0,1. So that means at equilibrium, the oxygen is 0,1. Okay, so now I can complete my whole reaction. So it will be minus, minus, plus, plus. And we're going to do grade 1 maths now again. 0,3 minus something gives me 0,1. And that something is 0,2. Okay, now I must do mole ratios. So if I take the 0,2, I multiply with the one furthest away divided by the one at the top of that. So it's 0,2 times 4 divided by 1, which gives me 0,8. If I take the 0,2 on this side, I multiply by 2 and divide by 1. So that will give me 0,4. I take the 0,2, I multiply by 2, divide by 1, and I get 0,4 again. So that is mole ratios. So the mole ratios is the balancing numbers in front. So 0,2 times 4 divided by 1 gave me the 0,8. Now I must just subtract. So there's the 0,2, this one is 0,4, and this one is 0,4. And please, boys and girls, very important, you must show us the division by 5. We can't smell it, you must show it. Okay, divide by 5, 0,1 divided by 5, 0,4 divided by 5, 0,4 divided by 5. So you're going to show the division there every time. Okay, so this gives me 0,04. This one gives me 0,02. This one gives me 0,08 and 0,08 again. Okay, so that means I've changed there my calculation and I've done the concentration. Now I'm going to put it in here. So 0,08 squared, 0,08 squared. It's a coincidence that these two are the same. So please don't write it now to the power of 4, because then it means the balancing number must be 4. So we're going to write it 0,08 squared, 0,08 squared, divided by, and the HCl, now you must be cautious, the HCl is the 0,04 to the power of 4, and the O2 is 0,02 just on its own because it's to the power of 1. And now in this case we get a nice big yield of 800. So that means you get 800 times more products out than the reagents that you put in. So if you can do a reaction like that, yes, that will give you a lot of money to get you through the whole process. Okay, boys and girls, now let's look at the rest of the question. So that was Casey. Okay, that was your table. 1.3. The temperature is now increased. So that means I've reached equilibrium at first and now I make a disturbance. The temperature is now increased. How will this affect the value of the equilibrium constant? Write down increase, decrease, or remain the same. Explain your answer. Okay, at this stage, I don't know. So I must leave a space open. So now I go to Le Chatelier's principle and I say the temperature was increased. Okay, so I won't get a mark for that because they told me that. So now I'm going to say according to Le Chatelier's principle, the temperature increased is favored by the endothermic reaction. Okay, so that is theory that you must know, and that was what I've done in the previous session last week. So that is out of the table, and I know that. And now I go back to my reaction, and I look at the work that I've done when I started. I see that I've indicated my reverse reaction is favored, so I'm going to say my reverse reaction is favored, and that means my equilibrium shift to the left, my equilibrium point shift to the left. Okay, but that is not the only thing, that is the answer. So they want to know Kc, and now Kc is temperature dependent, so equilibrium constant is Kc. So if I look at Kc, which is H2O squared Cl2 squared, and HCl to the power of 4 and O2. Okay, if the equilibrium shifts to the left, then it means the bottom two will increase and the top two will decrease. So the total answer there is decreased. So now I must just write my answer at the top, and that will be decrease. Okay, and there's your whole explanation on doing the Kc value. Kc is temperature dependent. So every time, anything that you have to explain here, you must use Le Chatelier's principle. Okay, 1.4. How will each of the following changes affect the equilibrium concentration of Cl2? Write down increase, decrease, or remain the same. Okay, they want to know vapor pressure. Water vapor is added into the container. Okay, boys and girls, if I look here, I see that water is one of the reactants. So sometimes you must distinguish between water is added to dilute the solutions, but there's no solutions, it's only gases. But water is one of the reagents for the reverse reaction. It was a product for the forward reaction, but it's a reagent for the reverse reaction. So there's the H2O. So now in plain English, I put in some extra water on the right-hand side. So the equilibrium is going to shift to the left. It is going away from the Cl2. Because it's going away from the Cl2 will decrease. So this answer will be decrease. Okay, I'm just going to write in very shorthand that the concentration of the water was increased. So that means the shift will be to the left, and the reverse reaction was favored. So it is away from Cl2. So that's why the concentration of Cl2 decreased. Okay, please don't write that as an explanation in exam. It is just now because it only counted 1 mark. So I'm just going to show it to you, just the explanation. Because otherwise you just write decrease. And when you want to look at it in the exam again, then you can't remember. So that is the reason why it happened. Okay, 1.4.2. A catalyst is added. Remember, a catalyst can just increase the rate, but it can't shift the equilibrium. So this will be remains the same. Please don't write no effect, because that wasn't one of the choices. I've given you choices, but you can't just say nothing happened. 1.4.3, the volume of the container is increased. Okay, boys and girls, that is important, because they say the volume was increased. What do they actually mean? The pressure was decreased, because pressure is inversely proportional to volume, according to Boyle's law. So the disturbance in this case is the pressure decreased. Now, according to Le Chatelier, if I increase the pressure, is the smallest amount of mole. If I decrease the pressure, then it is the biggest amount of mole of gas. So that means if I look at the biggest, 5 moles versus 4 moles, again the reverse reaction is favored and the equilibrium shifts to the left, that is away from the Cl2. So because it's away from the Cl2, this answer will also be decrease. So you see, I do this little explanation for myself, either in pencil and I draw a line through it, or on a separate page. But I can't just say there, I can suck out the answer out of my thumb and decide that decrease remains the same, then this one must be increase. It doesn't mean in science you must use all three words. All of them can be decrease, all of them can be increase. It doesn't always necessarily means that you have to use all three words. So just make sure this is the words that you're allowed to use when you do the calculations. Okay, that was question number 1. So now let's look at question number 2. Okay, boys and girls, let's see. Question number 2. Okay, if I look at this lovely graph of mine. Okay, first thing, if I look at the reaction first, you will see delta H is smaller than 0. Okay, that's my first thing. So that means it's exothermic, so the forward reaction will be exothermic and the reverse reaction will be endothermic. So I've done that. And then the other thing is they're all gases. Because they're all gases, I can have a look here at the gases. It is the N2, it's 1, plus 3, it's 4 moles of gas. And on this side, there's only 2 mole of gas. Okay, so I sorted that out. Luckily, everything is gases, and I'm just looking at the moles of gases. Now, boys and girls, if we have the graph in front of us, it's now very important. So I've done it like previously. There's concentration against time on my graph. Okay, so now in this case, the graphs that I explained earlier, all of them was reaction rate. This one is not reaction rate, it is concentration. So please look now, it's concentration against time. So if I have a look here, I see literally, that means all the horizontal parts, all the parts that where the graph is flat, that will be my equilibrium part. So that is very important there. So can you just show me the graph, please? It's on the next. Okay, so there's all the graphs, if I look at the graph part there. Okay, so now if I look here, there's just a single line that goes up. You will see there it is bended, it is bended, it is bended, but there's just a single line going up. So because there's just a single line going up, that will be concentration. That will be concentration. And the concentration of what? I track it to where they've written it. It's a concentration of N2. And because the line is going up, it will be increase. So that's important. So I'm first going to sort everything before I start answering the questions. So because there's one line going up, that means there's an increase in the concentration. So the rest just show the disturbance in the equilibrium, but there's just one line going up. But remember, it's because it's a concentration graph now. So that one line means it's the concentration of the N2. So maybe I put some extra, with a syringe, I put some extra N2 into my container. Now the next one at T2, you will see there's 1, 2, 3 vertical lines. That means I did something that disturbed the whole system. I did something that disturbed the whole system. So that means this will be pressure. This will be pressure. So the lines are going up, so that will be a change in pressure. So if there's only one line going upwards, it is concentration. but because there's 3 lines going up, it is a change in pressure. Okay, we will figure now out if it is a decrease or increase in pressure, but it is a change in pressure because there's 1, 2, 3 solid lines. And then the last part, because there's no solid line going upwards, and there's just a change, and it's making a bended part, it's making a bended part, making a bended part. This will be temperature. Okay, so that's important there. So concentration is just a single line that goes vertical upwards. That's concentration. If there's 1, 2, 3 lines going vertical upwards, then it's a pressure change. And if there's no vertical lines and they just become bended, the graphs, then it's a change in temperature. Okay, we will have a look now if it's increase or decrease, because that is part of the question. Okay, so the first part was a fertilizer company produces ammonia on a large scale at a temperature of 450 degrees Celsius, and they've given you the balanced equation. To meet an increased demand for fertilizer, the management of the company instructs their engineer to make the necessary adjustment to increase the yield of ammonia. Okay, so in a trial run, we changed out pressure, concentration, and temperature. Okay, so now on my graphs. Now they ask in question number 2. They say in question 2, 2.1.1, they tell you the following. They say, identify the changes made to the equilibrium mixture at each of the following times. Okay, now T1 was the pink one, so I increased, because the line went up, I increased the concentration of N2 gas. So please just say you increase the concentration, you must tell me of what. And there's the line that went upwards, so that means because that line went up, it is the N2 that was increased. And boys and girls, you can't just say there's a change in the concentration. Please be specific. You can't just say in general, this is what's happening. You must be very specific. Okay, the next one. We identify that as a change in pressure. Okay, now I must look again if it's an increase or a decrease in pressure. Okay, so now I look there and see the line went up, it went up, it went up. But then this one came down, which is the N2. The H2 also went down, but the NH3 went upwards. So that means if I look back at my reaction, that means the N2 became less, the H2 became less, and the NH3 increased. So that means my forward reaction was favored. And there's 4 moles of gas, there's 2 moles of gas. And my increase in pressure favors the least amount of mole of gas. So my forward reaction was favored, least amount of gas, so that means my pressure increased. So there was an increase in pressure. Okay, so the pressure changes the whole system. It can't just change a single gas, it changes the whole system. Okay, then 2.1.3. Well, something else I want to tell you. If you look at N2, you will see there's a bending in the graph, and H2, that is this dotted line, is also bended, but more than the top one. So if you look at the reaction, you will say the mole ratio is 1 to 3. So everything that happens to the N2 will have a 3 times more effect on the H2 and a doubling effect on the NH3, depending on the mole ratios. Okay, so there's my graph, and I look at my graph again, and I see there's my changes. If I look at T3, That was a temperature change because there's no sharp vertical line. They just bend it like this. So if I look at my temperature, I see the N2 increased, the H2 increased, but the NH3 decreased. Now, if I look there at my graph, if the N2 and H2 increased, that means my reverse reaction was favored because they become more and the NH3 less. So the reverse reaction was favored. Because the reverse reaction is endothermic, that was be an increase in temperature. So don't just say it's a change in temperature or just write temperature. You must tell me what is happening there. Okay, so that is very important. And it's not always, it can be increase, increase, decrease. It doesn't mean if I make a change on the graph, everything must be increased. It was just a coincidence in this case that they will all increase, but some can be decrease depending on what is given at the graph. Okay, 2.2. At which of the above times did the change made the reaction mixture lead to a higher yield of ammonia? Write only T1, T2, or T3. Now, the only thing that can change Kc is temperature, but not in this case. I must have a look here what is happening now. So if I look at the first one, they say, at which of the above times did the change that was made make the ammonia more, lead to a higher yield of ammonia? So that means I want more ammonia. So if I look at my reaction, I see that N2 was increased and then my fourth reaction was favored. So that means my N2 my NH3 become more. If I look at my graph again at T2, I see the NH3 goes up again, so it becomes more. But at last one, the NH3 line goes down, so it becomes less. So the answer will be T1 and T2. Because there was a shift to the right in the equilibrium, so that means there will be more NH3. Okay, now they tell me. The engineer now injects 5 moles of N2 and 5 moles of H2 in a 5 cubic decimeter container. Okay, this guy just did 5 of everything. Equilibrium is reached at 450 degrees Celsius. Upon analysis of the equilibrium mixture, he finds that the mass, okay, boys and girls, be cautious. You're so used to, we always give moles, that you read over this. It is a mass. Okay, calculate the value of the equilibrium constant, Kc, at 450 degrees. Okay, I use my table. N2 plus 3H2 gives me 2NH3. Okay. So in this case, I'm not going to use the right-hand side, but I just made the tables in advance, so that's why there's 4 columns. Okay, there's 5 moles and 5 moles, and 0 of that. Boys and girls, initial mole is not necessarily in the correct ratio. So please don't say, okay, but if this one is 5, this one must be 15. There was a typing error. It is not necessarily meaning initially they put it in the correct ratio. Sometimes most of the time, they put an excess of one of the two gases in to make sure that the maximum amount of gas will react. So please, those ones initially is not going to be in the correct mole ratio. The mole ratio is this part where we have the change in mole. That is where we're going to use the ratio. So the ratio part is that change in mole part. Okay, let's read again. engineer now injects 5 mole of N2 and 5 mole of H2, and it's a 5 cubic decimeter container. Equilibrium is reached as 450. Okay, you're not going to do anything with that 450 degrees now, because it is just Kc is temperature dependent. Okay, and I'm going to write my Kc so long. It is NH3 squared divided by N2 and H2 to the power of 3. Okay, now an important thing there is that value, upon analysis of the equilibrium mixture, he finds that the mass of the NH3 is going to be 20,4 grams. If I look at my table, I'm only allowed to put in mole and mole and mole and concentration. So there's no place for mass here. So I can't put in 20,4 here. I must first go and convert it. So before I do my table, I'm going to go to 2.3 and say N. I like to write NH3 there at the bottom, but it's not necessary to do that. And that gives me 20,4, and please calculate the NH3 separately. 14 plus 3 times 1 gives me 17 grams per mole. So please calculate that separately. We're not going to, if you put in the numbers 14 plus 3 there, we can't do the calculation for you. You must please do it yourself. Okay, this gives me 1,2 moles. So I must convert this, and you must show us the conversion. Like I said previously, you're not going to hand in your calculator, you're not going to hand in your head. So please make sure that we stay to doing everything on paper, please. Okay, boys and girls, so now I can put this 1,2 there. So that means it becomes less, and becomes more to get to the answer. So now the mole ratio part is this part. I'm going to make a little star there. So 0 plus something gives you 1,2. So this must be 1,2. Now mole ratio, I take 1,2 times 1 divided by 2. And that gives me 0,6. I take 1,2 times 3, which is 3,6, divided by 2 gives me 1,8. And then I must just subtract. So for this part where there's the star, that is where you do your mole ratio part. Okay, now I subtract 5 minus 0,6, it's 4,4, and it's 4,4 divided by 5. 5 minus 1,8 gives me 3,2, and 3,2 divided by 5, and then 1,2 divided by 5. So please show us the division by 5. This gives me 0,88, this one gives 0,64, and this one gives 0,24. Okay, and then I just put that into my Kc value. I must just have the correct one. NH3, it is 0,24 squared divided by, and then at the bottom 0,88 and 0,64 to the power of 3. So please make sure you put in the correct values in the correct places there from the top. And in this case, I only get 0,25. So I think this engineer is going to be sent back because he gets 4 times less fertilizer than initially put the input of the reagents. So I don't think his boss will be very impressed with him. So he's going to be sent back. So because if it was a 25 answer, yes, then he will get a bonus. But in this case, he's going to get sent back. Okay, boys and girls, now an interesting question at 2.4. They say, Why are this reaction performed at 450 degrees if it's an exothermic reaction? Okay, what will we usually say? Usually we will say, just in shorthand, if there's an increase in temperature, because 450 is high, increase in temperature, according to Le Chatelier's principle, the endothermic reaction is favored, which in this case will be the reverse reaction and which will give you less NH3. That will happen. But now, initially they said a fertilizer company produced ammonia on a large scale at a temperature of 450 degrees Celsius. Okay, now, boys and girls, if you go out there and you look at the whole thing of producing the fertilizer, there's now this important thing on the between reaction rate and chemical equilibrium, because I want to produce the fertilizer fast enough and I want to produce a lot of fertilizer. So I can't just put in more reagents because then it will cost me money. So I can't put in more reagents. So that's out. So now I must play around with the temperature and pressure. So now what will happen here is 450, we call that the optimal temperature to produce ammonia. So that means I get the ammonia fast enough. So now I must play around with the pressure to get more ammonia. So the 450, well, that temperature where I get the ammonia fast enough. Because if you have the fertilizer company, you can't wait 6 months just for the ammonia to be produced, and then you can't continue with the production of the fertilizer. So you must have that ratio between getting it fast enough and getting enough. So at 2.4, this one won't work. So the 450 degrees Celsius increase the reaction rate. Okay, so that's important. The 450 increase the reaction rate. Sorry. So that is the best temperature to produce NH3 fast enough. So what must I do with the pressure? If I increase the pressure, it's the least amount of mole. So that will be the 2 moles on the right-hand side. So to get a higher yield of ammonia, I must increase pressure. Okay, so that is very important. So in this case, reaction rate and yield to get more of ammonia goes together. So they go hand in hand. So you can't just always say increase the temperature or decrease the temperature, because if I decrease the temperature, I will favor the exothermic reaction. But then the reaction is so slow that I have to wait a long time to produce the fertilizer. And in the industry, it's not going to work. So just see for this one. So this is a level 4 type of question that you do. So that is where reaction rate and chemical equilibrium goes hand in hand. Okay, that was question number 2. Let's look at question number 3. To shift all my papers here. Okay, I got question number 3. Okay, boys and girls, and now you will see again a different one. I selected the graphs to be different from each other. Now you will see I have amount of mole of gas here against time. So again, a different one. So this is the amount of mole of gas that we have. Okay, so now before they make me anxious, I just want to do what I'm always doing. Delta H is smaller than 0 there. So that means to the right hand side it will be exothermic. To the left hand side it will be endothermic. And then I look at the amount of mole of gas. There's 1 and 3. So it gives me 4 moles of gas on the left hand side. And it gives me 2 moles of gas on the right hand side. Okay, so now I can read the question. You will see question 3 and question 2 at the same chemical equation. It was on the producing of ammonia. It is the same reaction, but there's different questions that I ask. The following equation represents a reversible reaction that has reached equilibrium at 470 degrees in a closed container. Okay, and they give you the graph, and then they say a change was then made to the NH3 in the equilibrium mixture at T2. A graph showing the effect of this change is drawn below. The graph is not drawn to scale. Okay, so remember, only when it is on graph paper. So in the next question you will see this one is drawn to scale because it's on graph paper. Okay, there's my change that I have. So now I look, it's the amount of gas again. There's just one sharp one there that I can see. The rest are just bended parts on my graph. Okay, so let's look here at question number 3. So 3.1. They tell me, what is the meaning of the horizontal lines between T1 and T2? Okay, so this graph doesn't necessarily start at 0. So something happened already, and then they have T1 and T2. So that means for what is the meaning there? That means it is chemical equilibrium reached. So there is where I already reach chemical equilibrium. Or if they tell you you must write something about the rates, then you can say the rate of my forward reaction equals the rate of the reverse reaction. Just make sure how the question is asked, but in this case you can just say chemical equilibrium was reached. State the change that was made to NH3 in the mixture at time 3. Okay, now the change, you can't just say I've added NH3. I will increase the concentration of NH3. Okay, now why? Because the graph gave me amount of mole of gas. Now, ma'am, why do you tell me it is concentration? If you look at the C equals N divided by V equation, the volume of the container was kept constant because they didn't tell us we changed the volume. So the volume was kept constant. So the concentration is directly proportional to the mole. So if I change the concentration in which I increase the amount of mole, I will also increase the concentration. But the change that I can do to a mixture is only pressure, concentration, or temperature. So I can only use that 3 words. So in this case, I increase the amount of mole, so I increase the concentration. 3.3. Explain how the change in question 3.2 affect the concentration of H2 and N2 gases as shown on the graph. Okay, so I'm going to explain by using the shuttle here. So I know there was an increase in concentration of NH3. Now, according to Le Chatelier's principle, the system is going to react to decrease the concentration of NH3. So therefore, the reverse reaction was favored and the equilibrium point shifted to the left. Okay, now again, that reasoning of the top, C equals N divided by V. The volume is constant. So if I change the concentration, the same change will be to the amount of mole. So now if I shift to the left, then I see that the amount of mole of H2 increased. So that means if I look at this, therefore the concentration of the H2 also increased. But they ask H2 and N2. So the amount of mole of N2 also increased, and the concentration of N2 will also increase. Just remember the shift changes the amount of moles, and that I can see on my graph. Do you see the H2 line goes up and the N2 line goes up? And the H2 line goes up 3 times more than the N2 line because of the mole ratio of 1 to 3. So it goes up 3 times more. And the N2 initially was increased and then it becomes decreased because of the shift in the equilibrium. So but if you shift the equilibrium, it changes the amount of mole and you must link it to concentration. But it's because of this ratio that this will happen. Okay, and just make sure that you've answered the whole question, the H2 and the N2. Oh, sorry for that. Okay, let's look at 3.4. Okay, question 3.4, it is my table again. I write the reaction at the top. Now they say 1,5 moles of N2 and 2 moles of H2 were injected in a 0,5. Okay, you were lucky, they already converted it. And please remember, if you must convert from cubic centimeters to cubic decimeters, you divide by 1,000. Just on this, cubic centimeter is the same as milliliter, and cubic decimeter is the same as liter. So if you want to convert there, you must divide by 1,000. But luckily, they have already done it for you, so you don't have to do anything with that. Okay, if I read my question again, 1,5 mole of N2 and 2 moles of H2 were injected in a 0,5 cubic decimeter closed reaction vessel. So that means that was 0 initially. And allowed to reach equilibrium at 470 degrees. When equilibrium was reached, it is found that 1 mole of NH3 was present. Okay, so equilibrium, there's 1. Okay, so that means if I look at the ratios, it becomes less, and positive there. Okay, now I use there where the star is again. You're not going to draw a star for us in the exam, but I'm just going to draw it like that. Okay, so it's 0 plus something gives you 1, so this must be 1. So now I do mole ratios, so I say it's 1 times 1, divided by 2, that gives me 0.5. Take 1 times 3 divided by 2, this is 1.5. So mole ratio, 1 times 3 divided by 2, 1 times 1 divided by 2 gives me 0.5. Now I do my subtraction, so I get 1. 2 minus 1.5 gives me 0.5, and then a 1 again. So it's 1 divided by 0.5. Okay, if you divide by a half, it's actually multiplied by 2. So 0.5 divided by 0.5 gives me 1. And 1 divided by 0.5 also gives me 2. So there I've completed my table. And then I can just do my Kc. So Kc, it's NH3 squared divided by N2 times H2 to the power of 3. Okay, so it's 2 squared divided by 2, and this one is 1 to the power of 3. Okay, so 1 to the power of 3 is 1, so this answer will be 2. So if I compare this one and the previous one, this engineer was more effective than the previous one because Kc is now 2. But this one will cause more money to be put in because he increased the NH3. Okay, so that is your Kc calculation. Okay, 3.5. If I look at 3.5, they say the temperature is now increased to 800 degrees Celsius. How will the value of Kc be affected if the temperature is increased to 800 Celsius? Write down increase or decrease or remain the same. Okay, I don't know. 3.5.2, explain your answer. So I'm going to start with the explanation. Okay, now according to Le Chatelier, the temperature is increased. So I'm not going to get a mark for that, but I must write it down because they told me the temperature is increased to 800 degrees. So the temperature is increased. So now I say according to Le Chatelier's principle, Le Chatelier's principle, the increase in temperature favors the endothermic reaction. Okay, so if I go to my reaction there initially, I have a look there and I see the reverse reaction is favored and the equilibrium point is shifted to the left. Okay, but that is not what is asked now, because they ask what will happen to Kc. So now I must look at Kc. Kc, it's NH3 squared divided by N2 times H2 to the power of 3. Okay, if I shift to the left, that means the N2 will become bigger, more. Again, I didn't change the volume, so that means what will happen to the mole will happen to the concentration as well. So the N2 will increase, the H2 will increase, but the NH3 will decrease. So that total answer, I have less at the top divided by a bigger number, so that becomes smaller. So then my answer here at the top will be decrease. Remember, I also said last week, there's not a one-size-fits-all answer. If I increase the temperature, the Kc will increase. Or if I increase the temperature, the Kc will decrease. That's not a one-size-fits-all answer. It depends on the reaction that you work with, what you will do there. Okay, so just make sure So they like asking these KC questions as well. But the only thing that can change KC is temperature. Okay, boys and girls, let's try question number 4. Okay, if I look at question number 4, they wrote there, it is a hypothetical reaction, not a pathetical reaction. You must write and read carefully. It's hypothetical, so it means it doesn't mean it is real chemicals. It's just something that I think out. What I'm going to do so long, I'm looking at the gases. There's 2 moles of gas on the left-hand side, and there's 2 plus 1. There's 3 moles of gas on the right-hand side. Okay. I don't know if it is exo-endothermic because they didn't tell me. They only said this was the reaction, so I don't know. Okay, let's look. Okay, now boys and girls, this graph is given exact values because it was drawn on graph paper. This one is drawn to scale. So that was the only one from now on that was drawn to scale. The other ones are not necessarily drawn to scale because they were not on graph paper. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. There's the amount of mole of gas and there's the time. Okay, now if I look, I just want to sort out. So this one is AB2, that is my 1, and this one is AB3 coming from the top, and there's a B2 and there at the bottom. Okay, now if you look there, the ratio also is 2, 2, and 1. So that means that the every change I do at AB3 or AB2, B2 will just have one change where these changes are doubled. So if I look at my graphs, you can even take, if you want to, highlighters and make sure you know which graph is which, but that doesn't matter. You can just take it as it is. Okay, so that was now what is given. So that means also from the top, I had AB3 initially. It becomes less, and I reach equilibrium for the first time. And then I made some disturbance, and then AB3 increased again, and there was reach equilibrium. AB2 and B2 starts now from the bottom because they are products. So initially I had no products, so they increased, reach equilibrium, and then decreased again, reach equilibrium. Increased, reach equilibrium, decreased, reach equilibrium again. Okay, so let's have a look what they ask us. Okay, question number 4. They say 4.1. Use the information in the graph to calculate the value of the equilibrium constant at 500 degrees Celsius. Okay, so now they plunge in here from the side. We haven't even had a table, anything that we're going to use, but we can use the values from the graph. So we're going to do a table for this one as well. So I can have here, if you want to do it, this one you can be done with or without the table. Okay, 4.1. So 2AB3 gives me 2AB2 plus B2. Okay. I can put in the initial moles and everything in there, but I already have the equilibrium mole. So I don't have to calculate the equilibrium mole because it is already given. I must just read it from my graph. So I already got that. I can write in there at the top, that one was 10 moles, and then I have 4 moles at equilibrium. but I just need the values there at equilibrium, because Kc, I need the equilibrium mole and I need the equilibrium constant, and the concentration for the constant. So I can just read it from there. So I must just now read carefully. AB2 will be 6 moles. So AB2 will be 6 moles according to the graph. AB3 will be 4 moles. And then if I read carefully there and I count correctly, if I look at my blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and you'll see it's 2, 4, 6. So if I go 5 blocks up, then this will be 3 there. So there's the 3. Okay, so I don't have to put in all the values there from the top, because I just need the equilibrium amount of mole. And because this graph was now drawn to scale, it was given on a graph paper and drawn to scale. That means I don't have to do the whole table. I just need the equilibrium amount of moles that's already given here that I have. Okay, now I must just make sure it's a 2 cubic decimeter container. So I just, so 4 times 2 divided by 2, 6 times 2 equals 3, and 3 times 2 gives you 1.5. So if you really want to, you can put in that initial numbers. There was 10 of that. That is where the graph started. I had 0 of that and 0 of that, because that's where the graph started. Will become less, will become less, will become more, will become more. And then I can look at my values I have there. Okay, so this will be 10 minus something gives you 4, so this will be a 6. And this one will be 0 plus something gives you 6, it will be 6. And this, because the ratio there also is 2 to 2, so if this one is a 6, that one must be a 6 as well. And now the ratio is 2 to 1, so this one must be a 3. And 0 plus 3 equals 3. So luckily it works out correctly, the mole ratio, so just make sure there. But the red ones you don't have to put in, because I just need the bottom ones, and I can just read this from my graph. They were so nice to give me all the values. So I can just say now Kc equals, and it's AB2 squared, B2 divided by AB3 squared. So just make sure you put the squares at the right place. So this will be 3 squared times 1,5 divided by 2 squared. So just make sure you put in the numbers correctly. And then I got 3,38. So in this case, you can use the table, or you could have done it without the table. It doesn't matter, because all the equilibrium moles were already given to you. Okay, so 4.1 was the table. 4.2, the temperature is increased to 600 degrees at the 16th minute. Okay. If they didn't tell you what happened there, you will see that, like explained previously, there was not a sharp upwards thing there. It was just bended, bended, bended. So that means it must be a temperature change. Now the blue on that. So this must just be a temperature change there. Okay, but they helped us. Okay, 4.2.1. The temperature is increased at 600 degrees at the 16th minute. Is the forward reaction endo or exothermic? Use Le Chatelier's principle to explain your answer. Okay, I don't know. So I'm first going to do the explanation, and then I'm going to determine if it's exo or endothermic. Okay, so I start with, they said the temperature is increased. Okay, now I know my work from the table. I will say according to Le Chatelier's principle, the increase in temperature favors the endothermic reaction. Okay, so that is theory that I must know in this case. Okay, now if I look at my graph, because I can't go back now to my reaction because they didn't give me a delta H value. So if I look at my graph now, you will see what happened in the graph. There was a change in temperature, which was an increase in temperature. The AB3 become more, the AB2 become less, and the B2 become less. So there's the two less, and that's the two things on the right-hand side, and the AB3 is the only thing on the left-hand side. So that, because that increased, means the reverse reaction was favored. So I'm going to say now the reverse reaction was favored, and the equilibrium point shifted to the left. So how did I see it? I look on my graph and said AB3 become more and AB2 and B2 become less. So that's the equilibrium shifted to the left. Okay, so now in this case, I see that endothermic reaction is favored. The reverse reaction was favored. So therefore, my reverse reaction is endothermic. But the question asks me, is the forward reaction endo or exothermic? So I have the reverse reaction is endothermic because of that part there at the top. So therefore my forward reaction is exothermic. Boys and girls, if they just ask, was the reaction exo or endothermic, it means they tell you it's the forward reaction. So if they just talk about the reaction, they mean the forward reaction. But in this case, it was said in words, is the forward reaction exo or endothermic? So the forward reaction is exothermic. So now I must just write it here at the top. Okay, so that first two, that number 1 and number 2. Number 1 was given, 2 is your theory you must know, and then point 3 and 4, I read that from my graph. Okay, now they want to know 4.2.2. How does the equilibrium constant between t equals 8 and t equals 16 minutes compared to that between t24 and t32? Write down greater than, smaller than, or equal to. Okay, just look at your comparison. They want to compare this one with this one. So you can't say you're going to work from right to left, because they ask you, how does the equilibrium constant for this part compares to that part? Greater than, smaller than, or equal to? Okay, I don't know. So I'm going to look at Kc equals AB2 and B2 divided by AB3 squared. Okay, so there's my equilibrium constant. Now, if I look at the part, this part, comparing to that part. So if I look at AB3, I will see between 8 and 10, it is less than that part. So that means AB3 is less. And if I look at that part as well, the AB2 is more than that part there. So the AB2 is more. And if I look at the it's bigger. And then if I look at the B2, I will see there I have more B2 than in this case that I have there. It will also be more. Okay, but now if I look at, they ask me, how does the equilibrium constant between t equals 8 minutes and t 16 minutes compare to that of t 24 and t 32? Okay, so I see that this will have a bigger value there. So I will say then greater than. So I worked out there that AB3 is less at 8 and 16 minutes. And then AB2 it's more and B2 is more than initially. The initial value is bigger than the final value. So it's just the order. If they ask you how did it compare the 24:32 minute one to the other one, then I will write smaller than. So it is the order that they must compare. Okay, 4.3.1. I'm just going to turn my page. 4.3.1. The volume of the container is decreased from 2 to 1 after 32 minutes, while the temperature is constant at 600 degrees. How will each of the following be affected? The value of Kc. Okay, now Kc, it's temperature dependent, and because they said the temperature is constant, that means the Kc value will be constant. Okay, they didn't give words there, so you can say stays constant or remains the same. Okay, so they just wanted that. I'm just going to write for yourself here. Kc, it's temperature dependent. And the temperature stays the same. So that means Kc will remain the same because Kc only depends on temperature. The number of moles of AB3, use Le Chatelier's principle to explain your answer. Okay, boys and girls, the disturbance here, it's not the volume of the container that is decreased, because what will happen now is you can only use the words concentration, pressure, and temperature. So you're going to say P is inversely proportional to V. So if the volume is decreased, then there was a pressure increase. You can just write pressure increase by decreasing volume if you want to write everything out, but we just want to have there's a pressure increased. So if I decrease the volume, I increase the pressure of the container. Okay, now I'm going to write my theory according to Le Chatelier's principle. The increase in pressure the reaction with the least amount of mole of gas is favored. Remember, the mole of gas is favored. So now if I go back to my reaction, I see there's 2 moles on the left-hand side, 3 moles on the right-hand side. So that means my reverse reaction is favored. And my equilibrium point shifted to the left. Okay, now I go back because they asked the number of moles of AB3, and because it shifted to the left, it is towards the AB3, so they become more. So this answer will be increase. Okay, boys and girls, so I hope I learned you something on graphs and that you know something on graphs. And I wish you luck for the exam. I just want to talk about the June exam quickly. If we look at the June exam, in the June exam, only the June exam counts. So that means what you get is what you will see on your report card. So there's no practical that can help you. It's only the June exam on its own. If I look at paper 2 first, now roughly you will see that paper 2 is divided in two parts. That paper 2, you will get organic chemistry. I'm just going to write organics. It will count more or less 50%. Half of the paper will be on organic chemistry. And there you have three things there. That is the naming of the compounds. It is the physical properties. And it is the reactions. Now, usually that is question number 2, 3, and 4. So usually that's question 2, question 3, and question 4. That is half of the paper. The other half of the paper, the other 50% in this case, will now be reaction rate, chemical equilibrium, and acid and base. Okay, so that is the work, the other 50% that you have. Now, either one of the two, the top part ones, will be divided into a question just on graphs and then the other question on the theory. So let's say reaction rate, there will be a question on the theory, calculate the reaction rate and so forth. And then the other part will be on Maxwell-Boltzmann graphs. Or at chemical equilibrium, there can be one question on Le Chatelier's principle, calculate Kc, and so forth, and then the other question on the graphs. So either they're going to ask two reaction rate questions and one chemical equilibrium question, or the other way around. And the acid and base, it's acid and base. Okay, boys and girls, that. The other is your stoichiometry. That is very important. They can ask, like in term 1, they can ask calculate the something at organic chemistry. They can ask the percentage yield, or they can ask the empirical formula. But mostly, you must know your stoichiometry from grade 11 very well. So it's not like in grade 10 and grade 11, there was a separate question on stoichiometry. But in grade 12, we can combine stoichiometry with everything. Just when we like to, we can put in stoichiometry. So please make sure you can do all that mole calculations, types of mole, N equals V over Vm. And please remember that when you're in grade 12, your Vm value is not always going to be 22,4 anymore. It can be any value that they've given you at a certain temperature. So make sure about that. And then you will also see that acid and base. At acid and base, there will be questions that they can ask on indicators as well on chemical equilibrium, because all your indicators work on the principle of Le Chatelier. So there's your June paper 2. 50% organic chemistry, 50% reaction rate, chemical equilibrium, and acid and base. When we get to September, you will see then it will be 33% organics, 33% reaction rate and chemical equilibrium, and then acid and base and your redox reactions will be the other 33%. But because we haven't done all the work yet, we're going to divide it in 50-50 this time. And then when we look at paper 1, okay, paper 1 is not that easy to explain to you what we will give you. They're like percentage-wise like this. But usually if you look at the questions, question 2 will be on Newton's laws. Then question number 3 will be on vertical projectile motion. Question 4 will be momentum. Question 5, it's work, energy, and power. Question 6 will be Doppler effect. Question 7 will be electrostatics. And question 8 will be circuits. Okay, so that is how your paper looks like. If you look at your questions there, sometimes they divide electrostatics into 2 questions, one on the forces and one on the fields, or they divide circuits into a question on doing the circuit calculations, and the other one then on a graph of Ohm's law or a graph of internal resistance. But that is how your paper is going to look like, and it's more or less 20 marks on each topic. So one question will be maybe 15 marks, then the other one will be 25 marks. But if you look at your topics, it's more or less 20 marks on a topic. Or sometimes they ask 2 multiple choice on that topic, and then your section B, your longer questions will then just have less marks. But that is how you divide the questions. So boys and girls, good luck for the June exam. Please study hard. And remember that your June exam counts 20% of your SPA mark that we have to send in to the department at the end of the year. So please go and study hard and make sure you know all this work very well, and that you struggle with, that you will attend to that before we strike term 3 again.